Boruto episode 72, Mitsuki's Will. This episode I definitely enjoyed. I think it was a nice, somber episode. It was very interesting watching it go into what is going to clearly be like the next full arc. I thought it was good. I like what we got to see from it. We do find out that it was actually Mitsuki. It wasn't a red herring where it ends up being someone else. It was actually Mitsuki. So, really looking forward to that. Really curious how that's going to play out, how it's going to make sense, because I think, a big chunk of my last review was like, I don't think it's Mitsuki because that it feels like, at least, without any of the extra, answers or anything, it feels like that almost defeats the entire purpose of Orochimaru putting him through that, those constant experiments where it's like he wanted him to have his own free will. Like I mentioned, like that's the only reason he was actually there was because he wanted him to have his own free will. But that's also just, it's Orochimaru. I mean, he literally swaps bodies so he can live forever. So it's one of those things where it's like, that could have been the experiment the whole time, was to finally make him choose, his own path. And it would be like, oh, well, and, they reference the fact that Orochimaru has been being watched. And I think they mentioned that early on in the series as well. And that just genuinely makes a ton of sense anyway. But it's one of those things where it's like, maybe he knew he was being watched even at that point, because I'm sure they were watching him, and he knew that, so that's why he did that experiment, to make it seem as though he was just trying to create a child that wouldn't just follow his orders and do whatever. He would just be a child that's growing up and kind of evolving in a brand new world. Just poof, he's 12 years old. And it was just interesting with, like I said, with that change coming, where it's like he was actually the villain, or at least he attacked those two guards at the front. So it's like, all right, I don't know what's happening here, so I'm looking forward to it. Of course, we get to see two of the new villains, which I totally called when they first introduced the new ending that the ending we currently have. I was like, those characters are way too detailed to not be the villains of the next main arc. And naturally, we finally get to see them. We see the guy with the tonfa. We don't see the person in like the Dragon Ball Super cosplay with like the super long Whis looking scarf on their neck, neck all the way down. But we do see the guy with the giant tonfa, and we do see the other person's got like bandages on their hand. So looking forward to seeing what they can do. We got a little bit of taste as far as the weird mud monster thing, which I thought was very interesting, because we see it later with Boruto when he comes across Mitsuki Snake. The little bit of mud is still kind of reacting on its own, and it eats the snake. And I was like, that's really interesting. Like, it's just like a blob, and it's still alive. Like, it's still kind of doing its own thing. So I thought that was an interesting little bit of chakra, where it's kind of just, it's not like a clone. It's legitimately like it exists, and then that's it. It's like an actual golem. Like, he created something, and then it just lives on forever until it's like actually destroyed. So I thought that was cool. But looking forward to getting some answers on their skills, who they are, like what the deal is with them, and why Orochimaru is doing this, or if he's even behind it, which I would assume he is, but that's because he's Orochimaru, he's the bad guy. But I don't know, a lot of questions, but definitely a cool episode. Tsunade comes back, which I thought was super awesome, and of course she looks exactly the same, which I thought was funny, but it was like, it makes perfect sense. I mean, she was 50 in the original series, and it's just like, yeah, so she's like mid-50s, by the end of Shippuden, in her 60s if you count like the final, like the actual last episodes of Shippuden that aren't manga based, but like just the episodes where like Hinata and Naruto get married and all that stuff. That's even further down the line. So she's in her 60s, and it's like, it just makes sense. Like, suddenly she'll be in her 70s, and it's like, I don't need to look like this. I'm a mature adult. It's like, no, she did it for 5 decades, 6 decades. She's gonna keep doing it forever until she's dead. So it's like, it makes sense that she will look exactly the same. So I thought that was funny, but I was like, that just fits. Like, suddenly she's gonna change. It's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. So she looks the same. Seems like they cut down on the boobs. I feel like they did that intentionally, but it's like, it's Tsunade, so it's obvious when it's like, oh, it doesn't seem as prominent in the animation. So I was like, okay, it seems like a thing. And that was also, it's funny because that was something that happened with Hinata in the manga as well, and I thought that was funny. It was like, that's kind of coming back again with a different character who also has large breasts. But it was cool that she came back. I love the fact that it's like this big secret that Mitsuki is Orochimaru's son. The main thing about that is I was surprised it was a secret from everyone. It made sense, like they mentioned like, oh, Tsunade, you've been gone for a minute or whatever, and of course Mitsuki's only been in town for a little bit, so it's like, it makes sense that she wouldn't know. But I was really shocked that Konohamaru didn't know at all either, and I was like, man, that kind of blows me away a little bit. And it was just a big secret to everyone in the room. It was like, yep, that's Orochimaru's kid. And it's like, how could you possibly bring Orochimaru's son into our village because it's Orochimaru. He killed the third Hokage. So I thought that was actually super cool because the way it was played out before, it was like, yeah, they aren't making it super public to every single person in the village, but I thought at least, the people that are directly involved, like Konohamaru being the teacher, I assumed that he knew, like, took him aside at some point or something. It was like, boom, this is Orochimaru's son. But I thought that was so interesting, especially considering the one episode, like way back in the beginning, where Orochimaru was in the village. I was like, how do they keep that a secret? Like, it's Orochimaru. And, like, I know they're ninjas, but still, it's like one of those weird things where I was just like, okay, he's at the school. Like, that just, people know that that's Mitsuki's son. Like, they were kind of holding it off a little bit for the actual audience, even though it's super duper obvious. But it was like, okay, everybody knows. Like, no big deal. Or at least, the higher ups know, and it's okay. And it was like, nope, it's a secret. I think it was Naruto, Shikamaru, obviously Shino knew as far as the parent-teacher conference thing they did in that one episode, and I think Kakashi knew. I can't remember, but either way, it was like three or four people knew, and to everyone else it was a big secret, and that just really shocked me. And I was like, oh, interesting. I didn't see that one coming, that it was a secret even to Konohamaru, stuff like that. So I like that element of it, and it upset a lot of people, and it's like, how could you kind of do this to the village, even though he's like, I accepted Mitsuki just as a shinobi. It's like, well, that's crazy because it's Orochimaru's son, and now look what's happened. So very excited to see where things go. I don't know if they'll play up on that element, because that was honestly one of my favorite parts, was, of course, Tsunade finding out that it was Orochimaru's son, and just everyone else being shocked as well. That was one of my favorite scenes because it kind of threw Naruto into a different position, where it's like he made a decision that no one else agreed with. It was like him and Shikamaru, and that was it. And like there's nothing else to it. Everyone else is just like, that's insane. And also you hid that from us, so we're just kind of being hit with this at the worst possible time when he leaves, and he's he attacks people and leaves the village, and then we find out, oh, it's Orochimaru's kid. So very interesting how that could play out if they decide to play that side up. I hope they do, just to have that element of tension between like some of the adult characters. I would kind of like to see that, even though I know it won't actually lead to anything. I would still like to see that. I think it would be pretty cool. But looking forward to the next episode. Naturally, Boruto and Sarada leave the village. They're going on their first, little adventure. They're big deal there. I had a ton of vibes of like the Sasuke retrieval arc, because it was like people leaving the village, and it's like, oh, we gotta go find him, and he's our friend, and having faith in him and stuff like that. I was like, this feels a lot like the retrieval arc, but I'm sure it won't be as epic. That's like one of my favorite seasons of the whole, like, of all of Naruto. That's like one of my favorite seasons, but should be entertaining. We'll get to see them go to Orochimaru. Hopefully we'll see, Suigetsu and Karin and Jugo. That would be pretty cool to see them show up again. But either way, I'm looking forward to some answers. Want to see what the heck is going on here. Obviously, this is the main arc. I don't know why they didn't show off the characters at the end of the episode, as far as like the actual ending. Maybe it's because they didn't reveal the third person yet. So maybe when that person gets revealed, we'll see all three of the silhouettes as full figures. But either way, looking forward to what we're getting. Of course, would love to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts about it, least favorite parts about it, and I would love to know your theories on what is happening, why Mitsuki left, what's going to happen with this arc, what is the end goal here as far as him leaving, attacking the the tuning guards, and them kind of taking off. What is Mitsuki's will as far as you're concerned? So definitely want to know your predictions, and like I said, of course, want to know what you guys thought about this episode in general, so please put your comments down in the comment section below, and of course, thanks for watching.